Hey guys, welcome back. We have a weekend energy update to get into. This weekend, we reached the midpoint of our eclipse window that we are traveling through right now. We are coming out of a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo that happened last week, and we are moving towards the new moon solar eclipse in Aries. It's going to be coming in, I believe it's the 29th of March, and this weekend the moon will transit through Capricorn, square the sun in Aries, and we have our third quarter square moon energy 3/4 of the way through our Pisces cycle, which means that really when we move into the energy of next week, that's our last week in our 2024 astrological lunar year. Of course, we've been in 2025 for a while now, according to the Gregorian calendar, but in terms of our lunar cycles that begin with the new moon in Aries and cycle through the new moon in Pisces every year, we are heading for the very last week of the very last cycle of that year, and the new moon in Aries is going to be this fresh start that's coming up next. And there could be an emphasis on the past this weekend, you guys. We've got retrograde planets that are going to be conjoining the sun, people, places, situations, conversations, relationships, investments, commitments, partnerships, all that type of stuff from the past. It could be prominent, coming up, coming back around. You could be reconnecting with old people, old situations, tying up loose ends, and of course this very karmic, fated, destiny oriented energy unfolding right now as well as we are moving through this eclipse window. And we got a lot to talk about, you guys, so let's get into our report of the day. Let's put all this together, see what things are looking like for us as we enter our weekend and where we're headed as we approach the energy of next week. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Friday, March 21st, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the weekend, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. In this video, we are just gonna discuss everything we've got going on out there energetically and how things are setting us up as we move into next week as well. Couple things to note up front. There is a thunderstorm passing through my area right now. That's why it's so dark. You may hear some crashing and banging in the background. There's a lot of thunder and lightning going on out there. And also, point number 2, Mercury is stationing retrograde when I'm filming this video today, so there's a greater than average possibility that I'm going to be saying the wrong thing and think I'm saying the right thing. So just letting you guys know if I'm kind of like all over the place verbally today. Mercury is stationing retrograde, but I'm gonna do my best. Anyways, let's get started with our report. Of course, as I mentioned in my intro, we are smack dab in the middle of our eclipse window as we specifically hit the energy of Saturday. That is our third quarter square moon, which means we're 3/4 of the way through our lunar cycle, which happens to be our Pisces lunar cycle right now, which happens to mean that we are at the very, very tail end of this astrological lunar year that began last year with the new moon in Aries. We've got one more week and we're also in this eclipse window. So and I know I've been saying this and I probably sound like a broken record, but it's just so evident right now, and it's one of the main signals that I feel is being energetically broadcast to us, is just we are at a time of endings, a time of release, culminating cycles, like finishing things that, you know, maybe we've been involved in for a long period of time. And this weekend is also very heavy on the retrograde end of things. Again, you know, we're moving through a period of time right now, a full moon lunar eclipse with the south node of the moon, all about karmic endings, karmic release, finishing things, tying up loose ends, coming to the end of a lesson that maybe we have been experiencing or working our way through for a long period of time, with all of the Saturn energy as well, also ruling karma, also ruling the past, also ruling long periods of time and our tests and our judgments, and like this whole like karmic reckoning type of energy that is being emphasized right now as well. We have that very much so again on display this weekend, which of course does make sense because we are in that eclipse window. But it's just all like heightened because it's coming through so many different ways. Like, if we were just in the full moon lunar eclipse window, that in and of itself would be enough to tell us, you know, that like this is a time of release, this is a time of endings, things being eclipsed from our lives. But then we add into it the addition of Saturn the planet, the Lord of Time and the Lord of Karma, also having to do with the past, as I said, and the history of things, like things going back long periods of time, tradition, convention, having been in a conjunction and opposition to that full moon lunar eclipse that began the eclipse window that we are moving through right now and arriving at the midpoint of. Like Saturn was very involved in that energy. And this weekend, the reason why we have our third quarter square moon energy is because the moon is in Capricorn, which is ruled by the planet Saturn. So Saturn is again being emphasized by the moon's placement this weekend as we do hit the midway point, the halfway point between eclipses, the lunar eclipse, that full moon eclipse, and the next solar eclipse, which is the new moon in Aries, which is the beginning and the initiation point of our new 2025 astrological lunar year. Each year, that cycle begins when the sun and the moon come into an alignment in the sign of Aries. So that's what's coming next. And it also happens to be a solar eclipse this year, which is another indication of like big change. And the solar eclipse, though, I think more so in terms of the future and kind of aligning us with what's to come next and the big changes that are pending, as opposed to this south node, because that's what the north node of the moon, which is the destiny point. This lunar eclipse that was with the full moon in Virgo that happened last week, the energy that we are coming out of and coming to the midpoint now, that was with the south node. That has to do with karma and the past. So we're clearing things out right now. Like we've had so much water energy going on as well. This is a time of karmic cleansing, karmic release, emotional release, cleansing our emotional body, and these fundamental changes happening within us that are going to translate into some very like palpable and fundamental changes happening externally and in the way that we are actually like interacting with our physical environment and our world. I think once we do move forward into April and into this 2025 astrological lunar year, which begins with the new moon in Aries that's coming up next. So still this weekend, you guys, it's all about these endings. And then of course we bring into it the fact that it's being emphasized through the sun's placement also in a conjunction with Venus retrograde on Saturday into Sunday. And then next week we begin our week, which is the last week of this Pisces cycle, which is the final week of our eclipse window, and which is the last week of our 2024 astrological lunar year itself. It begins with the sun coming into a conjunction with Mercury retrograde. Retrograde energy, especially when we're talking about these very personal planets like Venus and Mercury and the conjunction to the sun, it's shining a light on things from the past. You know, of course, it can also have us rethinking and reprioritizing and reevaluating and reassessing things. But it also has often a tendency to emphasize or re-emphasize things from the past, coming full circle, coming back around, resolutions, tying up loose ends, fixing things that maybe have been broken for a while. Now, this corrective, reparative energy associated with the retrogrades coming through, it on one hand has the impact, if we are like addressing old matters in this energy, it can put them back in a place where they can finally proceed, where maybe they've been backed up or not moving forward for a while. Like when the retrograde energy comes through, it can bring them, kind of like put them back on our list, and we can finally make the edit or the repair or whatever they need to make them be able to move forward again. But on the flip side of that, it's like anything that we are trying to start right now or trying to initiate or trying to move ahead or push forward, especially in the sign of Aries, especially also right now with Mars ruling the sign of Aries, where these retrograde conjunctions are taking place in an aspect in a trine to Saturn, it is still slowing things down. It's like anything that you try to get moving forward right now, initiate, begin in this energy, there's going to need to be some major revision, major correction, major adjustment before that thing will actually be able to move forward. So just something to keep in mind. You know, we want to, if you want to put your energy into making something happen, you should if possible, orient it more around taking care of old things that have been needing attention, because that is what is more likely to get back on track if you put your energy into it than things that you're trying to like new things that you're trying to bring into fruition right now, because that's just like not what's being energetically supported. We have an aptitude to repair things in a way that fixes a problem and puts them back on track and primes them for forward movement, or brings them to a point of release where we can finally detach from them and just like no longer have to deal with it in one way or another. So repair or release in terms of the old situations, and just, you know, understanding that, you know, new investments, new commitments, new relationships, it's probably going to be a challenge and gonna require a lot, if even possible, to proceed forward with things like that if they're starting right now in this energy. Okay, so that being said, though, it is probably still a pretty busy weekend and centralized around the Venus themes, social events, parties, celebrations, like dinners, reunions, or gatherings, maybe things to do with art, beauty, music, fashion, like wining and dining. Also, there could be like makeovers going on, people suddenly deciding to change or alter their appearance, aesthetic, image somehow, wanting to like redesign things. Things also to do with purchases or returns could be going on. Maybe again, like taking things back or trying to get money back for something. Buyer's remorse could be quite emblematic of this particular energy pattern, or we could just be changing our mind about stuff because we're deciding that maybe we don't like something as much as we initially thought we did. Reevaluating preferences, desires, values, priorities, and what we find attractive and worthy is something that can go on during energy like this also, especially with Venus and Mercury in such close proximity to each other, both retrograding in the same sign and coming into the conjunction with the sun. Relationships also that are not balanced, not reciprocal, not fair in some type of way, we could find them falling apart, or the lack of balance and lack of fairness that is existing there could be even more so evident than normal when this energy, you know, comes into play this weekend. We are able to see the flaws in others and in relationship dynamics much more clearly and much more critically than we can under other energy. Lack of satisfaction as a result, maybe lack of comfort, lack of pleasure, lack of peace could be the topics of conversation here. We could be really just able to see what is wrong in situations, and it could be functioning as a bit of a turn off, and we could be maybe reconsidering if we want to continue to pursue those things, you know what I mean? There could also be this like almost burning desire, yearning for how things used to be, bittersweet endings, nostalgia, like the unrequited love type of situation, the one who got away, maybe playing on our heartstrings, caught up in something like that, an old memory of someone or an old ideal or vision or just like moment of love or something like that that could have gone on. But again, remember, like, this is the time for letting go of those things. This is not energy for re-solidifying things from the past by trying to like bring them back and carry them into the future. This is about the karmic lessons that we have gained through what we've been through and letting go of what was never truly meant for us, being able to surrender what we know is not truly ours, but also this new beginning energy that's coming up as well, so that we can actually align ourselves with and be open to receive what really is and always has been meant for us, even if we don't know exactly what that is yet. These new changes and the new ways that we're being kind of like oriented right now, even if we're not conscious of it, is ultimately to align us with something that will bring us a greater sense of authentic, genuine fulfillment. And things are going to be just less superficial and less like surface level in terms of relationships and commitments. There is going to be greater balance as we move forward and go through this period of time of endings and beginnings. So we don't want to lose faith. We don't want to lose hope. You know, it can be obviously difficult if we're having to go through painful endings and relationship breakdowns and stuff like that, but it is everything right now, especially if it's happening in this eclipse window. There is a major element of karma and destiny. Like, these are karmic lessons, okay? Like, this is what we've had to go through to learn something that is trying to put us in a position to have something so much more if we are able to make it through the difficulty, you know, learn the lesson and surrender what we can't continue to take with us if we are going to attain that future thing, which has yet to come into our reality. It is pouring out there. I hope that's not too loud in the background. But this is blast from the past energy, okay? So reuniting with old friends and comrades, absolutely likely to be going on this weekend. The 21st, which is actually my son's 12th birthday. I can't believe he's 12. Happy birthday, Akai. Should be a pretty interesting, uplifting day. We've got the moon transiting through Sagittarius. This is still, I mean, we have a nice hefty dose of fire energy going on Friday, which is probably nice considering all of the very strong water energy that we've been in. This is definitely, you know, having a counterbalancing effect to the dominant Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio energy that has been just really very quite consuming in terms of like our energy field over this past week or so. There could be some interference with like our fun times or our ability to do what we want and feel free, or, you know, expand or celebrate or be out and about. Somehow the moon in Sagittarius will come into a conjunction with Saturn later in the day. However, before that happens, the moon in Sag will also form an opposition to Jupiter in Sagittarius. This could be uplifting things a bit. We do have quite a bit of fire energy that is going on that I think is probably a pretty nice counter to all of this like super powerful water energy that has just been like flooding the energetic field over the past week with all of this Neptune, North Node, Pisces, Sun, Moon, Cancer, Scorpio energy that we've had going on. Very, very emotional times, very, very strong emotional undercurrents that have been involved in pretty much all of the ongoings. With the entrance of the sun into Aries this past week, and also the moon in Sagittarius now, this fire sign trine I think has been doing some things to kind of like lift our spirits, reinvigorate us, re-energize us on some level, maybe make us feel a little bit more alive. Now, the moon in Sagittarius will form an opposition to Jupiter in the early to midpoint of the day on Friday. This again is probably lifting up our spirits and creating maybe a sense of hope or optimism that's been a bit lacking. The moon will then go on and form a square to Saturn, which could be putting a bit of a damper on things. Sagittarius, the sign, just kind of like wants to cut loose and have a good time and feel free and celebrate life. Square to Saturn could be just maybe putting some boundaries or restrictions on that in terms of duty, responsibility, obligation, what we should do, what we need to do versus, you know, kind of what we want to do. There could be some internalized challenges going on in that regard, really kind of in the energy all weekend, but being indicated by the moon in Sag squaring Saturn in Pisces on Friday. But I do feel like it's probably still the most upbeat day that we've got going on over the course of the weekend. Now, as we move into the energy of Saturday and the moon enters Capricorn, that should like simmer things down a little bit. And we do have this very strong retrograde energy that's coming through as well. So even though we are getting our bit of our energy back, you guys, as this Aries energy is coming in, there is still a lot that I feel like is kind of holding it back and holding it down. I mean, Mars is in a trine to Saturn right now. Mars is ruling the Aries energy. The planets in Aries, aside from the sun, and that the sun will be making conjunction to, are retrograding, you know, pulling things back. We're also, of course, in this lunar release south node eclipse window, which is kind of draining things out. And we do have that very prominent Neptunian influence right now at 29 degrees of the sign of Pisces, which is also just slowing things down and Neptune is about to enter Aries. That's a big energetic shift that we've got coming up. Things are going to start moving. They are going to start progressing. They are going to start changing. But again, I think that we just got to get through this next several days. But it is another really great weekend for fixing things, reorganizing, again, like making repairs, putting time and energy into making things better, making things more productive, making things more efficient. This Mars-Saturn trine in water signs is very supportive of us making lasting like fixes to things. They may be challenging, they may be difficult, they may require like a lot of hard work or focus, but what we are doing now, what we are building now, because of the retrograde planets in the sign of Aries, and we're talking about Mars, ruler of Aries, like the corrections that are being made now are what is necessary to like lay these new foundations, like form these new structures that will be foundational in what we're building in this next phase of our lives that is to come next. So it is kind of important if you look at it from that perspective, where it's like the slow and steady is like the best outcome type of energy, not wanting to rush and let things be sloppy, and just wanting to take the time and effort to do things right, doing things the right way, even if it's like the harder, more difficult way, because that is ultimately what is going to serve us, and that is what universe is calling for right now. Trying to just rush forward and rush into things and do things the quick and easy way, like the instantaneous anything, is definitely not the vibe. The more precise and careful and detail oriented and strategic that we can be right now, the more careful that we can be in the moves that we're making and the foundations that we're laying, the more likely they are to be rewarded or be successful or have longevity moving into the future. So I would say generally this weekend is presenting a challenge in terms of letting something go or overcoming something perhaps internal or maybe an emotional block or limitation that has been keeping us attached to the past or to a way that we've been doing things that has not been getting us the results that we wanted, or has not been working in our favor, or has been self-sabotaging in some type of a way. Sunday could present some emotional challenges as well. Sunday is actually quite a, emotionally like raw and vulnerable, difficult perhaps energy, anger, depression, hurt feelings, criticism, judgment, also that hurts or wounds our sense of self or our self-esteem could be something that we're dealing with on Sunday. We've got a T-square, an exact T-square in cardinal signs that's setting up between Mars and Cancer, Chiron in the sign of Aries, and the moon coming into an opposition with Mars in the sign of Capricorn. This could be like self-worth issues. I do think we could feel like there could be a strong sense of like feeling like a failure. You know what I mean? Like we can never do anything right. Like nothing we do is ever good enough. Like no matter how hard we work, we can't seem to get ahead, or like we'll never rise to the level that we would expect for ourselves. Like this kind of just like sentiment of being weak or being vulnerable or being incapable, or also with a Chiron element, maybe like having been victimized or injured or weakened to the point where we are unable to rise to some type of challenge. Like this is a very just as I said, difficult energy, like feelings of inadequacy and emotional struggles generally with self-worth could be prominent for sure in the energy of this cardinal T-square with Chiron, Mars, and the moon, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer. The good news is though here, again, like I'm going to talk about this trine that we have going on between Mars and Saturn in water signs. Now, despite the way that this T-square might be making us feel, maybe beaten down by life or circumstances, there is emotional resiliency that is also present because of Mars and the trine to Saturn. And Mars is one of the planets in this T-square. So it's the type of energy where, you can be beaten or broken down, but your spirit or your soul can't be defeated. This is like when the going gets tough, the tough get going. This is, you can take everything from me and you can ground me into the ground, but you can never take my like fighting spirit, and I will rise to fight another day. It just this energy imbues us with this emotional resiliency or physical resiliency and physical and emotional endurance when we have Mars and Saturn in the water sign energy together. There is an ability to keep going, whether it's just to prove ourselves because of like our own pride when we're dealing with that Mars energy, or because we just have this, you know, the Saturn Pisces, the Piscean element of things, just like this spiritual resiliency or this faith that refuses to succumb and refuses to let us give up. Okay, so we do have this energetic support to hang on if we feel like we are failing, or if we feel like we are falling, or things are just kind of falling apart and crumbling around us, rather than maybe coming together and supporting us right now, which is how things could feel. I mean, for a lot of reasons, as I keep talking about, specifically this eclipse window being a major part of that. These are tests of faith. These are karmic tests. Again, the Saturn influence, so powerful in the context of our eclipse season, which is about destiny and karma as well. And it's trials and temptations, you guys. This is like the 40 days in the desert, okay? That's the energy that this particular setup, at least on Sunday, is kind of giving. So we need to keep going. We need to not give in. We need to not give up. We need to fall back on that spiritual, emotional support provided by the Mars Saturn energy, and not allow ourselves to be consumed by perhaps self-pity, or how much we've suffered, or how we've been victimized, or also how unfair or unbalanced things may seem. Also in this Venus retrograde energy, a lot of things, legal situations and stuff like that too, with both Saturn and Venus retrograde being prominent, could feel out of balance, could feel unfair. And this whole like victim perpetrator situation with Mars and Chiron could also, I don't know, be kind of just like a prominent theme right now. But again, and I know I keep saying it, we're in this eclipse window, okay? Aside from literally our own aptitude to self-control and self-discipline, really everything is kind of out of our control right now. The hand of God is navigating the ship, okay? And it's going to go where it's going to go, and it's going to go how it's going to go. And another one of the major lessons right now is in terms of our ability to release control of that which is out of our control and surrender to what is happening, with the faith that we are actually going to be guided in a direction that is going to put us in a better place, even if we can't particularly perceive that right now. It is a part of this unfolding story as well. And in the meantime, with this retrograde energy, specifically the Sun and Venus coming together in a conjunction this weekend, rediscovering our own true authenticity and our own real personal values and truths outside of perhaps like social norms or social constraints or social constructs or social expectations or societal relations or norms or conditionings that maybe we have adhered ourselves to in the past, maybe that we have idealized in the past and tried to fulfill or rise into. This is about getting really, really real with ourselves, figuring out like who we actually are, like what it is that we really truly value outside of the group norms and everybody else, and how we are going to start embodying that moving forward, because that is a dimension of how things are being rearranged right now energetically that is putting us on that path, obviously, to what will bring us that greater sense of ultimate fulfillment, because it's more real and authentically aligned with us as we move forward and as we are able to let go of the things that actually we maybe thought were, but we're coming to find weren't, or were an illusion the entire time. We have the conjunction between the Sun and Venus occurring at 3 degrees of the sign of Aries. That Sabian symbol is a cameo profile of a man in the outline of his country. So who are we really, and how are we redefining ourselves, even to the extent of physical transformations to embody that, like in that regard. And then the position of the Earth in opposition to that alignment is 3 degrees of Libra. The dawn of a new day reveals everything changed. So that is where we're at as I've said, for a multitude of different reasons right now, patterns repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating themselves, and me here repeating and repeating and repeating myself as a result of that. But we are at the dawn of actually this new age right now, this age of Aquarius. And so, of course, because of that, these major foundational transformations and changes and energetic endings, culminations of cycles of time that have been playing out karmically, perhaps for generations, are finding their conclusion right now, being reflected in all of these varying energetic patterns, suggesting the end of an age, the end of an era, the end of an old way, the end of these old ancient legacies of power and control. And it's ultimately leading, of course, to this paradigm shift, which is what we're talking about on this channel and what we are definitely going to find ourselves moving into as we begin to move through our 2025 astrological lunar year, which is coming up with the solar eclipse, new moon in Aries in the end of March coming up next. There's a major transition, you guys, that takes place between March and April this year. We also have Neptune about to enter the sign of Aries, which is big astrology happening as well. And so we still got a lot to talk about as we close out this Pisces cycle and prepare to move into the month of April. And that's what I have to say today, you guys. As we move, as I said, into the energy of next week, we are starting the week off in very strong Mercury retrograde energy. Of course, the Sun and Mercury will be coming into an exact conjunction together in the sign of Aries as well. And actually next week, we've got a lot going on. We've got another busy astrology week next week. Venus backs into the sign of Pisces again, comes back into a conjunction with Neptune in the North Node. Another thing that we've got going on next week, you guys, the black moon is changing signs. The black moon is currently at 29 degrees right now of the sign of Libra as well, finishing up her 9-month transit of the sign of Libra. We are going to be needing to talk about that next week. That's also a big energy shift in terms of fears, worries, and insecurities and doubts that we're interfacing with, where they're stemming from. Also a dimension of our shadow side energy we're going to be working with collectively over this next 9 months. But people, the black moon will be entering the sign of Scorpio. So people who have stelliums of planets, black moon, Chiron in the sign, sun, moon in the sign of Scorpio, you guys are going to be the ones who are feeling the black moon energy more prominently coming up here next. And of course, next week we also have that new moon solar eclipse that is the beginning of our astrological new year happening in the sign of Aries. Very busy astrology week coming up next week as well. So that's what I have to say today, you guys, as we close out the weekend. It is probably, again, like a slow-paced weekend with all the Saturn energy. The energetic high point is more likely to be on Friday, right? Because that's when we've got both the sun and the moon in fire signs. Even though the moon does come into that square with Saturn, it's still a more like lively, upbeat energy than when we've got the moon entering Capricorn, kind of keying things down a bit in that regard, making us more introspective and more serious and like somber about things. But getting to work, housework, chores, projects, fixing things, streamlining things to the best of our ability, making things more productive and more efficient, those are the type of things that are going to work in our favor and that are going to be less of a struggle as we move through the weekend. And again, on Sunday, if you are just feeling like totally over it and really maybe being self-critical or down on yourself, or dealing with some people that are being just like hypercritical of you, it is the nature of the energetic environment on Sunday, and it's the 40 days in the desert type of thing, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want to lose faith. Even if we don't know where this is going, we just need to keep going forward. I'm gonna get a synchronicity card now, you guys. Actually, first, I want to remind you guys about the jewelry company Otter. They are a gemstone jewelry company out of California, and they actually donate proceeds to save the wild sea otters as well that were endangered almost to the point of extinction a couple of years ago. So if you're into supporting wild sea otters and you also are into beautiful crystal jewelry, you should check out Otter. Today I am wearing their citrine mini bracelet and their tiger's eye mini bracelet. They're so pretty. And I also have on this hand a tiger's eye solitaire bracelet, which is this gold band with this little tiger's eye gemstone right in the middle there. I was feeling the, I guess, golden feline energy today for some reason, even though it's a super cloudy day and we're in the midst of a big rainstorm. That was the vibe I was going with, and so that's what I've got going on. If you want to get some of these bracelets too, I have a 20% off promo code Aubrey20 in my description box below, and there's also a link that you can click on that will give you 20% off your purchase as well. It's also a great way to support my channel, so big thank you to Otter. Really awesome jewelry. And now let's get a synchronicity card, you guys. I'm going to ask God, Spirit, Universe for one final piece of guidance, advice. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? What do we need to tell ourselves as we move through this weekend? Here it is. Stop fighting the situation. Literally, exactly. And here comes the rain again. Okay. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good, Romans 12:21. Don't fight or wage war in your own mind. The enemy is a negative thought of fear, anger, hostility in your own mind. Don't act under the sway of negative emotions. Replace the negative thought with a positive one. Claim all the while that God is guiding you and giving you peace of mind. Seek spiritual guidance, read your Bible, or go to church, or commune with the divine in whatever way is suitable to you. But our guidance for this weekend is to stop fighting the situation. Again, as I was saying, we are in this eclipse window. There is very little outside of ourselves and our ability to implement self-control or self-discipline in various ways that we have control over as we move through this period of time, and surrendering to certain things, release, letting go, giving it to a higher power with the faith that somehow at the end of it, it's going to put us in a better place. That is, I do think, a major part of the spiritual test and the karmic tests that we are going through right now. And our card, you guys, is pretty much saying the same thing. Stop fighting the situation. So that's what I have to say today, you guys. That is my weekend update. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you also think they would enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, you guys. I am so grateful for your presence on my channel. Please let me know if you're having experiences that reflect what I'm talking about in these videos. That is very valuable information to me, and I'm so grateful for your presence here. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards linked in my description box below. And come back with me on Monday, you guys. As I have already said more than once, we've got another very active astrology week next week, starting out with a Sun-Mercury retrograde conjunction. So I'll be back to talk all about it. You should come back with me too. You don't want to miss it. I will see you next time, guys. Have a beautiful weekend, and until then, bye.